In the second part of your notes, we're going to continue looking at domain and range, but now we're going to look at it when you have a continuous graph. And so again, remember the domain has to do with the x's, so it's kind of how far the area that the graph covers in terms of the x's, whereas the range has to do with the y's. So we're talking like up and down, how far does that function cover? So as we go ahead and we look at the first example here, the first thing we're going to try to find is our domain. So to find the domain, we're going to look at the x-axis. And so I'm going to start over here on this side, on the x-axis. And the first point I see of the graph is up here, so that would be at the point -6. And if I look, it's got a solid circle at -6, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that here right on my x-axis. And then as I follow, that graph continues all along all of these x values all the way until the last point where it stops right here. That's an open circle. So at 2 is where it kind of ends in terms of the x's, and there's an open circle there. So the domain, this graph, goes from -6 to +2. And we're talking about x's for domain, right? Because we're talking about our x's here. And so we're going to write a compound inequality for this graph right here. So at the -6, we need the equal to bar because it's a closed circle. And at the +2, it's an open circle, so it will not be equal to. All right, so that's how we do the domain. Then to do the range, remember range, we're going to be looking at the y-axis. So we'll start kind of at the lowest point that we have. So let me erase this here. So if we start at our lowest point on the y-axis, it'd be right here at -5. It'd be right this part of the graph. So at -5, we have an open circle, and that graph this continues all the way up until we hit this point right here. So at 25, there's a solid circle. So we're going to go ahead and write a compound inequality for this right here. And so we're talking about y's this time because it's range. So the range goes from the lowest y value of -5 up to the highest y value of +25. At -5 is an open circle, so we're going to put without the equal to bar. And at +25, it's a closed circle, so we're going to put the equal to bar there. So basically that's what we're going to be doing for each of these graphs. Starting first looking at the domain, looking on the x-axis. So on this one, looks like it begins at -16, the x coordinate of -16, and continues all the way till this point here at 0, where it's an open circle. So writing that as a compound inequality, x would be between -16 and 0. At -16, it is equal to, because of the solid circle, and at 0, it's an open circle, so it would not be equal to. Then moving on to the range, the y's. So we're going to start with our lowest y value, which would be right here at -2, and that is a solid circle. And it continues upward, all the way up, past that open circle, all the way here to +3. And at 3, there isn't any circle at all, but so we assume that it's a closed circle. We're assuming that it actually has a point right there at 3. So we're going to go ahead and assume that we're going from -2 to +3 on the y-axis. At -2 is a solid circle. Same thing at +3. So that's how we would write our compound inequality for the range. Moving on to number 3, starting with the domain, looking at the x-axis. Looks like it starts at -10 with a solid circle and continues all the way until -2 with another solid circle. So this is x's. They go from -10 to -2. Both are equal to because both have solid circles. And then we can go back and do the range. So starting our lowest value is right here at 3, going all the way up to 18, right there. Both of those are closed circles again. So our range, our y's, would go from 3 to 18, and both of those are equal to, they've got the solid circles. Let's do a couple more together. So starting with our domain on our x-axis. So the smallest x value is -12, and it continues all the way to the farthest point it ever hits is right here at 9. And again, there's not a dot there, but because the line is solid along that point, we're going to assume it's a closed circle. So it looks like it's going, like our x is between -12 and +9, and both of those are equal to. Then looking at the range, the y's, the lowest point is right here at -12 where that solid circle is, and it continues upward all the way up to +9 where there's another solid circle. So the y's are between -12 and +9, and both of those are equal to. Number 5, starting with the domain, looking at our x-axis, starting at -20, continuing all the way over until the furthest point is this open circle up here. So I'll put an open circle at 12. So it looks like the x's are between -20 and +12. At -20 it would be equal to, at +12 it is not. The range, looking at the y's, the lowest y value is down here at -4, and this function continues upward all the way until we hit +10. So the y's are between -4 and +10. At -4, it's a solid circle. At +10, it's an open circle. And the last example, number 6, starting with the domain, looking at the x's, starting at -3, open circle, headed all the way to +3, another open circle. So x is between -3 and +3, and both of those are open circles. And the range. Looking at the y-axis, lowest point is -3, open circle, all the way up to +2, open circle. So that means the y's are between -3 and +2. Both are open circles, so neither inequality sign will be equal to. So at this point, go ahead and try doing the problems on the back here. Work through those, and then you can check your answers on the whiteboard at the back of the room.